I'm fine. Okay. So I think there are people online already.
Okay. Hi everyone. Let me know if you can hear me. Put it in the comment section. Let's see. Hey, can I even join the chat? I have to connect to my YouTube. Good evening, everybody. It's an honor to have you here. I would like to see if everyone can hear me. Good evening, Etim. Good evening, Martha. Good evening, Ebere. Um, hmm. Okay. Good evening, everyone. So let me quickly do something. Okay. Good evening, Damilare. Good evening, Ebere. Can we start now? How many people are online? How many people are around? Okay, can I go ahead and start? Um, 8 people already. So we'll wait till we have like 10 people, then we'll start. Good. If we are good with it, let me get it to photography. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try as much as possible. I'm going to, how would I put this? I'm going to give you guys a lot of things today. I'm going to try and share as much as I can within an hour and 30 minutes. I'm going to give opportunity to ask questions, say the last 10 minutes, and let's get into it. So first of all, this document I'm sharing, I created it many years ago. So I didn't have a lot of time to create a new one because I fell sick, but that's just by the way. So now, first of all, one thing you need to know is you don't just take photographs, you make it. This is one thing you should probably put at the back of your mind. Like just put it somewhere, right? There's a difference between photographers and people that just take pictures. Photographers try to make the pictures. Wait, I hope you can hear me. If you can hear me, let me know. Um, Balogun can hear me. Any other person? All right, so we'll just continue. Yeah, basically, like I said, you don't just make take pictures, you make it. Meaning you have to be very intentional with everything from the taking pictures process to the um, editing to the posting. So you make the picture, but we'll get into it. So what is photography? Photography, a lot of people have defined it, is that of capturing light with camera using your digital sensor to create an image. Photography is art, application, and practice of creating durable images by recording light, basically, either electronically by means of an image sensor or chemically by means of a light sensitive material such as the photographic film. Now, what makes this interesting is without light, you can't create images. I'm sure you have received light right now. So without light, you can't create images, and it's important you know that. And the way it happens is when light bounces off a surface. So the way you can see me, or the reason why you can see me, is because light is bouncing off from the light on my right, light from my screen, and then light from outside. So the fact that light is bouncing on me, it is projecting what my body image to you. Now, what that makes it interesting is when you carry your camera has a sensor behind it that captures the lights coming in through the lens. We'll explain that in a few minutes. So the art photography is the art or process of producing images by the act of radiant energy and especially light on sensitive surfaces. So if you want to read the history of photography or what is photography, or you want to read more, I can send you the link. I just want to make this as brief as possible. So, like I said before, light reflected or emitted from objects goes through your lens and is focused onto a light sensitive surface, including which is inside the camera. So the light sensitive surface, what is interesting is I'm going to try and make this as practical as possible. So I have a lens here and I have a camera here. So this is not going to be a boring time. It's not going to be a boring session. It's going to be a good one. So when you carry your camera, right, be it your professional camera, your phone camera, what happens is you have your subject here, right? Light bounces off this person and it goes through the lens. Now, your lens has, what do you call it? Different lenses. They call it, I can't remember, like convex lenses, concave lenses, and other things that make it possible that you bend the light. Now, the light goes in through your lens, and there is a sensor here. Now, when you hear, I don't want to be biased. Now, you will hear a lot of phone brands say, oh, 50 megapixels, 30 megapixels, 100 megapixels. You will see if camera that they say is 32 megapixels. Now, what it means is pixels are very tiny square how would I put it, electronic surfaces come join together that make up your sensor. Now, when they say 50 megapixels, that means 50,000, or mega is times 10 to the power 6, right? So that means 50 million pixels are on your sensor. Now, what makes it interesting is the bigger your sensor, the better your image, your camera is, and the smaller your sensor, the harder it is. That's why sometimes people try to argue that phone camera is beating professional camera, but it's not possible because phone cameras are not, they don't have that big of a sensor as opposed to camera sensors. Camera sensors have like 1 inch and above. Phone sensors don't have that kind of size. So when you say your sensor has 50 megapixels or 30 megapixels or 100 megapixels, it means that 100 million pixels are on that sensor and they are there to capture the light that's coming through your lens onto your sensor surface. Does that make sense? So when you press your shutter, back in the day, photography was more or less like they did it in the dark room. So your camera shutter, there's a shutter that is in front of your sensor. The shutter opens and closes. So when it opens and closes, it captures that light depending on how many seconds you put it, 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 1/250th of a second. But like that's just by the way. It will capture it. We'll get to that. Do let us job. It will capture it, and then your sensor is going to capture the picture you've taken. So that's basically the brief explanation of the photography camera, right? So now let's move on. I don't want to spread too much. Why photography? We use photography to communicate and document moments in time. We use photography to showcase what's important. History is documented through photography. Photography tells story. One of the things you will note, one of the things you will note is the fact that if what I'm saying, photography allows for self-expression. This part I put here, right? There was a time I was going, no, this is not for this place. So if you want to you are going through a moment, you want to express joy, sadness, anything, you can use photography to express it. I hope you understand what I mean. Now, photography inspires. Now, there are some pictures you see and you're like, wow, like I can do this. Like this is amazing. It will inspire you to want to do more. And photography builds connection. When it's photography builds connection, one of the few things churches have been able to do is when people see their pictures online, they come to your church for the first time, they see their picture online, they're, oh, like, wow, they've built a connection to the church. One, if they see themselves with friends or family online, or they've seen their pictures with friends or family, be like, I remember this person I met after church, this person I met during church, this person that first greeted me. That's one of the ways it builds connections. Or you go to a party, you go to a session. Photography allows you to build connection. I hope you get what I mean. Now, anybody can take on photography. Male, female, child, adults, old people, there is no demography that says that you cannot be a photographer. You can be a photographer as long as you put your mind to it. And then photography also allows you to create art, right? I had to be very intentional and make it possible such that these pictures were not here before. There are some other pictures that were there before. So as you can see from what you can see on the screen, right, it allows you to see the emotions of the people that are worshiping, people expecting, they're anticipating, they're they're hungry for more. Does that make sense? So this is one of the things that photography allows you to do. It allows you to also see the audience, the um magnificence of, how would I put it? The magnificence of seeing prophets with thousands of people waiting to hear from him, right? Or receiving. Do you get what I mean? So, like I said, everything like I said before, photography embodies everything I've said before. So yeah, I will add a bit of some of my works in a way. So photography allows you to see how that moment was, right? It's very interesting. And I want you to keep that in mind, right? Um, Now, what is the role of photography and media as in regards to church? Now, the role of photography in regards to church majorly is to proclaim the gospel and minister to believers and unbelievers through our images, right? You don't want people to look at your image and be like, or be like, oh, why are they doing this? Why does this look like this, right? We use our pictures or photography to minister the gospel, right? We do this by documenting the moments in church, assisting our prophets in labor by giving our acts of service to God, right? We let people know through our images that the presence of God, the guardians of believers, is the worthy place to be. We showcase the love of God as we are one family. We extend this to others through our images and through our pictures, right? Please note, being in publishers is amazing. There's a lot of work, right? But we do it because we love God and we do it because it's our labor of love to God, right? We water and we plant. No, let's ignore that part. Cross that part. All right. So God never lets your labor of love go unrewarded. So we take pictures to proclaim, like I said, to proclaim and preach the gospel, right? It's not just, oh, let's just take pictures, right? We are being intentional. Like I said, we make the pictures, we don't just take it, right? We make it, we're intentional about it, and we proclaim the gospel through it, through worship, through the word, through different moments that unfold during the service. Now, this is something that, how will I put it? I've seen over the years. Half the time I'm wearing black, right? This is not something I'm trying to say everybody should um, follow through, but this is something that I have been doing all my life. I try as much as possible to be invisible. You don't want somebody to be worshiping and the next thing your outfit is kind of jumping in their face or they are noticing you. You want to be like a ninja. You want to walk in between people. You want to work in between moments and capture it and not take people out of the moment that they are also experiencing. Does that make sense? One of the ways I do it is I wear black. Half the time when I wear black, nobody sees me. This is probably like my everyday wear. They say all I wear is black. Why? Because I like to be invisible as much as I like to be visible. In the sense that you want to be visible by being present in the moment, but you also want to be invisible by not distracting people from the moments they are also experiencing. When I mean being in the moment, sometimes you have to be vocal, you have to be present, you have to show that you are there, right? But at the time, you want to disappear because you want to be able to capture those moments and nobody's noticing you, right? Don't run, you will see, you read some of the things here. Invisibility movement, don't run, don't walk there, don't walk across the altar, don't just be walking and people are looking at you. Like be observant and be invisible at the same time. Then anticipate the service flow. So when prophet is preaching or when prophet is laying hands on people, right? There are times you don't have to be in front of them because that is a moment that's unfolding. You need to be far back and then observe, anticipate. So because you are a photographer or because you're in the media team, you would have seen more of these moments unfold a lot. So what I mean is you'll get at a point, you get to know when something's about to happen, right? You observe body languages, you read people's facial expressions. That's one of the things amazing that comes with photography is being quiet and being observant. So you being in that moment, you get to see some things. So after a while, some things just become second nature because you know what's about to unfold, and then you are anticipating those moments. You are knowing that okay, this worship moment, this person is going to raise their hand. You are anticipating that moment, and you are watching the person's body language. Do you understand what I mean? Um, spiritual awareness. When people are worshiping, someone is deep in worship, crying, under the anointing. You don't just take the photograph. You make it. You make it with empathy. You don't just go and then carry your camera and be like, yes, that is weird, right? Distance yourself, give the moments to unfold and take the pictures, right? You don't you don't budge in, you don't go and then you're like, oh, because the person is there, let me go there and now stand in front of the person. Yeah, that's weird. That's one of the few etiquettes. Another one is pointing flash at people. We'll get to that in a bit. How will I put this? I'm not a big fan of pointing flash at people because it's very distracting. There are times when it's pointing flash. So when I mean pointing flash, this is what I mean. This is annoying, right? This is really annoying. Imagine, oh shit, I don't have my battery here. I would have tried it. Imagine somebody flashing light at you. It can be distracting. There are ways you can do it where you either bounce the light off the wall. I'll try and see if we can add one more session where we'll do speed light 101, right? In the sense that you don't go about pointing flash at people. It can be distracting. Imagine I'm worshiping God, and the next thing I'm seeing is somebody just point flash at me. Psh, bro, sorry, relax, bro. All right, so there is always the opportunity to use a flash card. There is a flash card that comes on your camera. I'm not really a fan of this thing because it kind of like to produce hard light, but there are other ones you can use which will produce soft lights, right? Which is this white one, and it's bigger. But that's just by the way, always be aware of flash. Sometimes you might not need to use flash. Now we will get to a point where the church is going to be very big, very large, and then we might not need to use flash because we have a lot of how would I call it? Natural light in the sense of natural light being artificial light in this case, in the sense of strobe light and other lights that we'll be able to use to take pictures. So you might not need to use this, so that it might not be distracting people. But then you have to factor in editing. Some things will be done in editing with that. That's just by the way. So let's continue. So the advantage of photography, I don't want to go deep into this. If you want this thing, you can ask me. There are portrait photography, area photography, photojournalism. This is something I created for people that wanted to do photography at the time. So there are different types of photography, but that's not the main reason we're here. We're here for church. Now let's talk about cameras. Whew. Are we doing good? Let me get feedback. Sorry, let's get feedback. How is it going? No, it's not just you, Balogun. I don't want to hear from Balogun. I want to hear from other people that have joined this session. How is it going? Um, yeah. Wow, no feedback. Please help me. But anyways, moving on. Thank you so much, Joshua. Okay, thank you, Barry. All right, now moving on to cameras, right? I hope you can still see my screen. Yes, you can see my screen. Moving on to cameras, right? Like I said, cameras are what you use to take pictures. Now, there are different kind of cameras, right? There is point and shoots. Point and shoots, if you grew up in early 2000s, 2012, 15, point and shoot are all those small cameras that you just pop out you just put it on, you just take pictures. That's point and shoot. You have your smartphones now. Your smartphone can take pictures, right? I need you to know that your smartphone is an amazing camera too. We have DSLRs. DSLRs are I don't have a DSLR here, so I'm not sure I'm going to be able to explain the DSLR. Now, the difference, so the DSLRs were the cameras that were made or that were raining before the mirrorless came out. Now, what's the difference between mirrorless and the DSLR? The difference is the mirror, right? So back in the day, there used to be a mirror here. There used to be a mirror around here. Let me explain. There used to be a mirror around here that when you're about to take your picture, right, there is a viewfinder here. What the viewfinder does is it allows you to see what you're about to take a picture of. Now, the light will come in from the lens, like I said before. There will be a mirror here that will bounce lights. There's always a prism here. It will bounce lights, and you'll be able to see what you're about to take a picture of here. Now, when you press the shutter button to take the picture, the mirror will go up, right? The shutter will open and close, and the mirror will come down. Does that make sense? That was the difference between the mirrorless and DSLR. Now we have mirrorless. Mirrorless means that there is no mirror for you to be seeing what you're about to take a picture of anymore. Now everything is electronic. You have an electronic viewfinder, and the light just comes in straight. Mirror, a bit lens sensor, lens shutter, curtains sensor. No more mirror. The mirror was making the cameras bulky, heavier, and mirrorless cameras are now lighter. So everyone has moved on to mirrorless now, and no one is using. People are using DSLRs, so it's preference. If you know how to use mirrorless, great for you. If you don't know how to use mirrorless, if you use DSLRs are they're like a starting point for a lot of photographers because they're cheaper. But mirrorless allows you. Mirrorless is like a cheat code, right? You basically see what you're about to take a picture of without using your viewfinder. At the time, I don't use my viewfinder anymore. I use my electronic viewfinder. Electronic viewfinder is always here, right? You can do that with the mirrorless camera, but mirrorless camera is like 30, it's like 30, it's like 2 minutes before the mirror comes out back. But like that's just by the way. So besides different kind of cameras, we have point and shoots, smartphones, film camera. I didn't mention that we don't really use film camera, so let's not talk about that. Then we have mirrorless and we have DSLRs. So if anybody's asking you, oh, which one do you want? You go to a vendor and they're like, oh, which one do you want? Do you want the DSLR? Do you want the mirrorless? Just go for the mirrorless. It's usually better. Now, how images are made. I have kind of given you a little breakdown of how images are made, but this is like a basic understanding. If you want to read it, we don't need to go deep into this, right? You don't need to go deep into it. But like I said, the light comes in from outside, from your subject into your lens. The lens bends the light. The amount of light that's also entering your camera is also controlled by the lens, which we'll talk about when we're talking about the exposure triangle and other things. Then the light will now hit your sensor, which is at the back here. Now, like I said before, the sensors are filled with pixels. Here you will see it's called pixel tray. The way you will see, how do I put it, the natural eye is able to see greens more. So sensors are made with the natural eye in mind. So on your pixel tray, you will see more greens than reds and blues. And the natural occurring colors you see in nature is red RGB, which is red, green, blue, which is the reason why for your pixel tray, you will see red, green, blue. But like I said, that's just by the way. And once you take the picture, it will appear on your liquid crystal display, which is the LCD at the back. I've explained. Oh yeah, I've explained the DSLR thing I mentioned. You will see the light comes in here. This is the focusing. Apparently it's called. There's a focusing screen here. Two is the reflex mirror. You can read up on it if you want to. You can take a picture, take a screenshot if you want, and you can ask me for this document later. Like I said, different kind of cameras, DSLR. I already mentioned it. Now, the evolution of cameras, right? I kind of mentioned it already. While DSLRs have been in the industry standard for years, camera technology have heavily shifted towards mirrorless cameras. Unlike a DSLR, a mirrorless camera completely removes the internal reflex mirror and pentaprism. Instead, light passes directly through the lens and continually hits the digital image sensor, transmitting a digital feed straight to the electronic viewfinder or the LCD screen. So it means that, like I said, the mirror has been removed. And what makes it also interesting is mirrorless has completely silent shooting and real-time exposure simulation. What this means is, unlike back in the day where you have to kind of think about it, because you have an electronic, you have a electronic viewfinder now, a mirrorless camera. You don't have to think about how to expose per se. Like I said, mirrorless are like cheat codes. But like that, just by the way, this is a mirrorless camera. This is a film camera. This is your phone. Like I said, phones are amazing. Phones are powerful. And I need you to know that it's very, you can create amazing content with it. And there are different brands for cameras. But for the fact that for the Nigerian audience, we are kind of limited to two cameras, which is the Sony and the Canon. Some people use Fuji film, but I'm not going to recommend Fuji film for a church. Now, let's talk about the lens. Whew, how are we doing so far? Great stuff. Now let's continue. Your lens is a piece of glass or transparent material with curved sides for concentrating or dispersing light rays, used singly as in a magnifying glass or with other lenses. Do you understand what I mean? The light gathering device of a camera typically contain a group of compound lenses. So basically, this lens that you see that I'm going to hold, that I'm holding in my hand, right? They are different. There are different lenses inside it. If you did physics back in the day, physics will tell you there's concave. How do I keep it concave lenses, and there are what do you call it, convex lenses. So, and there are other different things to basically direct the light. So a lens is a transmittive optical device that focuses or disperses a light beam by means of refraction. A simple lens consists of a single piece of transparent material, while a compound lens consists of several simple lenses, right? Usually arranged along a common axis. Lenses are made from glass and plastic, and like I said, they are used to direct light. Now, the terminologies you need to know about the lens is number one, focal length, aperture, depth of field. Now, let's talk about focal length. Focal length is this is a focal length that like 5 here. It's measured in millimeters. Focal length of a lens is determined when the lens is focal activity. Basically, let me not make it hard for you. The focal length is determined from the front of the lens, which is here, to where to the back of the lens, which is no to the front of the sensor, if that makes sense. How this affects or what this means is if you carry an 85 lens, now I have a 35 lens with me. If you carry this 85 lens, this 85 lens will really be 85 lens when you attach it to the camera, right? And when you, this is very interesting. Before I talk about this, let me say something. There are two types of cameras I need to mention. I mentioned the different types of cameras, but there are two kinds, if that makes sense. There are two kinds of camera. We have the full frame and you have the APS-C type of camera. Now, the APS-C kind of camera is cropped sensor. We hear it, a lot of people say crop sensor, and then there's full frame. Full frame is more or less like back in the day, they used to use 35 film to be like the standard size for sensors. Now, your sensor can either be full frame. I should have said it. Type of sensor is what I mean. Your sensors can either be full frame or it could have be crop sensor. What this means is if I put a 35 lens on a cropped sensor camera, every crop sensor camera has a magnification factor, either by 1.5 or 1.6. I think for Canon is 1.6 or 1.5. For Sony is 1. Either of them, one of the two. Now, if I put that if I put 85 on a 1.5 magnification factor or cropped sensor lens, cropped sensor camera, it means that the 85 is not 85 on that camera. It means that it is either what is it 5 times sorry, hold on. 85 times 1.6 is 136, approximately 135. So your 85 is not 85 on a crop sensor camera. It is 136 millimeters. Why? Because your sensor is not the full frame, meaning that it's not the original size of sensors and it is cropped. So because your sensor is cropped, it has a magnification factor that will be added to your lens. Does that make sense? If you put a 50 on a cropped sensor camera, it's not going to, when you bring it to your eyes, what you would be seeing is not 50 You'll be seeing around 85 Does that make sense? If I put that same 50 on a full frame camera, what I'll be getting is 50 If I put a 85 lens on a full frame camera, I'll be getting 50 Now, what makes it different is your angle of view will either be smaller or wider. Now, if I use a 50 or 50 lens on a full frame camera, and all I'm seeing is this, right? This is my angle of view. Now, if I now take that 50 and I put it on a crop sensor camera, because it is no more 50 it's now 85 my angle of view will reduce, meaning that what I could see in my frame, if I could see the stage, I could see the choir before, I will not see the choir and the stage anymore. I'll probably be seeing only prophets. Does that make sense? If you get that, please let me know. That's kind of tricky. Do you understand what I mean? Feedback. If you do, just let me know. If not, I can explain it. Your 50 mm on a crop sensor camera will not be 50 mm. It will be the magnification factor that that crop sensor has on your lens times your lens. So if I put a 35 mm on a full frame camera, I'll get it. Okay. The very did not get it. Okay, now we have two cameras, right? This is a full frame camera. This is a crop sensor camera. Now, what it means is that let's say the size of the sensor for the full frame is this wide. Now, if I now get a crop sensor camera, let's say all I have is from here to here. Does that make sense? It means that what I could have seen if I had a full frame camera, which is from here to here, has been cut off by what I have from here to here. Does that make sense? Now, because a crop sensor size is from here to here, what I would see if I put a 50 mm on my camera, if I put a 50 on my camera, everything I'm seeing is going to be from here to here. Now, because I don't have a full frame camera anymore, there's not a magnification factor in the sense that what I'm seeing here from here to here, and I put a 50 mm on the camera on this particular point, I will not see everything the same thing that the 35 that the full frame is seeing. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Let me know if you get it. What I would see if I put my 50 mm on my full frame camera, which is the sensor size is this wide, will not be the same thing I will see if I have half of it. So the cropped sensor is the one from here to here. The full frame is from here to here. Now, when I now put my 50 mm on this, right? What's my full frame camera from here to here will see? My crop sensor cannot see it. It means that I either have to move back or have to get a wider lens. Now, there are ways to counter it, right? If you have a 35, if you have a 35 mm and the 35 mm on a full frame is on a crop sensor is 50 millimeters, what you will do is you can get a 24 mm. The 24 mm will not help you see what a 35 mm is seeing, but just that there will be distortions. It's very, very interesting. That's why a lot of people sometimes end up going for full frames because it's kind of more professional and you don't have to stress about it. But then crop sensors are also good because that's what I started with. So moving back to thank you for everybody. Thank you everybody. That's what I said. So back to what I was saying. There are different kind of lenses. Your focal length is determined from the front of the camera to the back of the camera, like I said before. So if you carry a lens, right, or they'll say how many millimeters is what is the focal length? This is an 85 mm lens. This is a 35 mm lens. This is a 24 to 70 mm lens. This is a 24 to 105 lens, but we'll get to some of the things that we're going to talk about. Now, the next thing we'll talk about is aperture. Hold on, quick one, water break. All right, so next thing is aperture, right? Aperture, hey, aperture is the opening of the lens and it allows light into the camera. I'm going to give you a practical example or practical understanding of what I mean by aperture. Now, when you wake up in the morning and then somebody just puts on the lights, what do? You're sleeping and someone just comes, puts on the light. What do? You do like this. You squint your eyes. Why? You're trying to reduce the amount of light that's entering into your eyes, right? Now, if you're in the dark or you're in a low light environment where there isn't so much light, what do? You open your eyes like this, like, let me see what I'm about to eat, or probably so I don't eat my leg on the table, or so that I can see where I'm going. Does that make sense? So the ability to control the amount of light that's entering into your eyes, either you want to reduce the amount of light entering into your eyes, or you want to open your eyes to see more things in your environment. is affected by the aperture. Does that make sense? Now, the way it works is it's expressed in f-stops, f number. Now, they are inversely, like I said, it affects the amount of light attention to your camera. Now, they are inversely proportional, not directly proportional, in the sense that the higher your f-stop number, the smaller your aperture opening, and the smaller the amount of light that enters into your camera. The lower your f-stop number, the wider your aperture opening, and the more the amount of light that enters into your camera. Now, let me do like a physical explanation of what I mean. Now, the higher your f-stop number, for example, I am at f1.8. f1.8 could be this big, right? It's very, like I said, it's inversely proportional. f1.8 could be this big, meaning that the amount of light that will enter in through this hole is a lot. Now, I'm at f22. The amount of light that will enter f22, this is probably f22. f22 can be this small. The amount of light that will enter through this place is very small, meaning the amount of light that will enter here will not be as much as the amount of light that will enter here. Excuse me. Do you get what I mean? The higher the f-stop number on your camera, the higher the f-stop number. Oh, let me show you an example. Now, this is, let me go back to the camera. This is a lens that has the f-stop number on it, right? So you will see here f16. Oh, can you see me? You see f16, and it can go all the way to f1.4. Now, at f1.4, the amount of light that will enter into this camera is way more than the amount of light that will enter into the camera at f16. Does that make sense? Yes, it does. All right, great stuff. So that is aperture. It affects the amount of light that enters into your camera. Now, this same lens that we are still talking about affects depth of field. I'm sorry if this is a lot. When I say depth of field is, it controls, I'll just read it. It controls the amount of the image or picture that is in focus. And we use it to either draw the viewer's eye to the art in the image where we want to emphasize, or if it's everything we want to emphasize. Now, for example, in a landscape picture, if you look at the landscape picture, what are you trying to emphasize? You're trying to emphasize the whole thing, and it is affected by depth of field. Now, the way it works is it works with the same f-stop. Now, the higher the f-stop number, the more parts of your image will be in focus, while the lower the f-stop number, the lower the amount, the less the amount of less the parts of your image are in focus. Let me try and look for an example. Let me try to find an example, a visual example, instead of just trying to wing it. Now, what I mean is at f1.8, right? You will see more blur or more bokeh in your background. At f22, you will see that your subject and the environment is more in focus. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to try and share this. I don't know if I should do it. I don't know if I should. Okay, let me use an example. Okay, I would rather use a visual example instead of trying to make you guys rack your brain. So let's just go back to this thing. I'll use a visual example. So for example, if I carry my finger, right, and I bring it to my face, you can try it yourself. I bring it to my face. What happens? My hand is in focus while every other thing is blurred. Now, if I take my hand away, I can see my laptop, my book here, my cameras here, they are sharp. Does that make sense? So the lower the f-stop number, the more blur you have in your background, or the more bokeh you have, or the more depth of field you have, and the higher the f-stop number, the sharper the parts of your image are. Does that make sense? Let me know if you get it. Check. Let me know if you get it. Do you get it? I can just read what I have here. An example is a landscape picture. We want to showcase everything in the picture, meaning you want the whole thing to be sharp. Another example is wanting to take a person's portrait, right? And you want every other thing in the background to be blurred out. So a shallow depth of field means you have more blur in the background, while more depth of field or a deeper depth of field means you have more of the image in focus. Does that make sense? Please let me know if it makes sense. Wait, rush. Just let me know. Let me know. Wait, I can't. Okay. Is everyone see here? Can you see me? It makes sense. Thank you very much, Iberi. Um, I'm going to take Iberi's feedback as okay, and Israel's on. Thank you so much. I'm going to take it and I'm going to move on. So basically, like I said, your lens has three features: your focal length, right, which is how far, how close, or your zooming ability. We'll get to that in a bit. Your aperture opening, which is measured in f-stop. The lower the f-stop number, the wider your aperture opening, and the lower your f-stop number, the more the shallower the depth of field you have, meaning that your background is more blur as opposed to your subject, right? Yes, subject background. But the higher the f-stop number, the smaller the aperture opening, and then the more in focus different parts of the images are. Now, one thing you can do, right, is if you have a if you kind of have a good camera, right? If you have a camera that allows you, if you have if you have a Samsung or if you have a an iPhone, right? They allow you test out your aperture, right? What you can do is you can open those parts, professional parts of the camera, and then find a subject. It can be a bottle, it can be anything, and see what happens when you vary your f-stop number between the lowest f-stop number available on that camera to the on the lens. Actually, it's the camera because you're using your phone on the phone to the highest number and let me know what happens. Now, one thing I also need to let you know is on each lens, you will see the lowest f-stop number on it. Now, if anybody says what is the fastest f-stop number, what's the fastest f-stop number for your lens? It means that what is the lowest f-stop number on your lens. Now, for example, this 85 has 1:1.8. 1.8 is the lowest f-stop number, so it can go from 1.8 to f22. This one has 1.4, so it means that 1.4 will allow more light than 1.8, right? This one is f2.8, meaning that if I zoom in, zoom out, the widest it can go is 2.8. This one has let me see real quick. This one is sometimes you put it in front. This one is FE4, meaning that the aperture number it can go, the lowest it can go is f4. It can't go lower than f4. So depending on the lens you are getting, your f-stop number also matters. So let's say, like I said, you are in an environment where, am I jumping ahead of myself? Yes. Let's come back. We'll get to that very soon. So different types of lenses. We have fisheye lenses, we have wide angle lenses, we have standard lenses, we have telephoto lenses, we have zoom lenses, we have prime lenses. Now, we also have macro lenses. What it means is fisheye lenses are all those ones that are always looked bent. If you have a 360 camera or you've seen 360 camera kind of content, that's kind of a fisheye lens. Wide angle lenses are lenses like 10 mm, 20 mm, 16 to 24, 10 to 16. All those lenses that when you put it on your camera, you see a wide angle of view, right? The standard lenses are like your 24 to 70 mm, your 70 to 55. I think 70 to 55 is like how would I say this? It's standard and it's zoom, right? Then you have a telephoto lenses. Telephoto lenses are lenses that if you sit down here, you don't take picture of somebody that is far away from you, or like I said, they're in service, you're at annual camp meeting, and you don't take picture of prophets. You don't want to go all the way to the stage. You have like 70 to 200, you have 400 mm, you have 300 mm, you have lenses in those categories, 600 mm, 400, 600. Those are your telephoto lenses, or you want to take a picture of the moon. There are lenses that go all the way to 500 mm. I think the higher ones, I've never really put this in my head. It's just basic ones. They are zoom lenses. Zoom lenses are the ones, like I said, they're like standard lenses. Your zoom lenses are the ones that go from a lower focal length number to a higher focal length number. In the sense of 24 to 70, you will see it on this one, 24 to 70. It allows you to zoom in, right? Your 24 to 105, your 17 to 55, what else? Your 70 to 200 is a zoom lens, but you put it in a telephoto lens because it allows you to see far. Then you have your prime lenses. Prime lenses are lenses that have one focal length. They don't vary, right? For example, this is an 85 lens. You can never get 35 from it. You can never get 50 from it. It is always going to be. It's always going to be 85 This is a 35 lens. It is always going to be 35 There is no way to vary it. So if somebody gives you a lens and they say, okay, what you have on it is a 50 lens, right? It means that you have a prime lens, meaning that it cannot go lower than that. So anytime you want to take pictures, you either have to move forward or move back to change your angle of view. You want to include more in your frame, you have to move back. You want to reduce what is in your frame, or you want to minimize the amount of pictures that's in your frame, you move in. So there was a time I shot a wedding with a 35 lens. Light was 35 lens. So what did that mean? It means that if I wanted to take close-up shots, I have to move close to the subject because 35 is probably seeing this. So I want to zoom in. I have to go there and stay in front of the person like this. If I want to take full shots, I have to go back. Does that make sense? So that is prime lenses for you. Macro lenses are lenses that allow you to take detailed shots. In the sense of you would have probably seen people that do wildlife photographers use telephoto lens, or the people that do insect photography, in the sense that they take pictures of insects or they take tiny details. Right? Those are what we call macro lenses. Or you take a picture of the ring of the bride and groom. Those allow you to take details. An example is like 135 lens. Yes, 135 lens. You can. I'm not sure you can use 85 lens. 85 lens is majorly a portrait lens. Let's continue. I'm ready blabbing. So I already put examples here. 16 to 35 prime lenses are 35, 50, 85. Telephoto lenses 70 to 200. This is very important in church because sometimes you don't want to be in front to be disturbing prophets or disturbing anybody that's preaching. You want to stay behind, take your picture, move on. Or you can always use a standard lens or something. Whew, that's by the way. I have pictures here for different type of lenses. This is a wide angle lens. This is 30 to 20 I don't know what lens this is. It's blurred out. So this is 70 to 200 telephoto lens. This is a prime lens, 50 f1.4. Remember I said you can know the kind of lens you are holding. So this is 50 1 ratio 1.4, meaning that it's 1.4, right? This is 50 1.4. You can see it in front here. Different brands, different ways of showing the way they want to do it. This is a Nikon brand. There's Nikon in Nigeria. Yeah, I forgot to mention. There's Nikon, as the way Nikon will do it. This is the way Canon will do it. This is Sigma. Sigma does it differently. Sigma does not put it in front, they put it on the side here. Sony, I already showed you Sony. Different ways, different brands, different way they do their thing. This is 16 to 35. There's also one type of lens, I can't remember, but that's not important for our class. This is 16 to 35. This can be zoom lens, it can be not zoom, it can be wide angle actually. 16 to 35. This is a fisheye lens. You don't necessarily need a fisheye lens, except you're trying to do something creative. And this is 18 to 55, 18 to 15 It's very, very interesting. And this is what f4. It can't go lower than f4. This is an example of what the fisheye lens would do. So like if you've seen all those 360 cameras and stuff. This is 85 This is 85 f1. There's a filter here. This is a filter. This is your zooming infinity and stuff. So this number here that you are seeing, 72 is the size of the filter. So we are not getting the filters because we don't need it. I don't know what this was. This is probably like f1.4 and the photo lens. This is a macro lens, 100 135 And for equipment we majorly be using in church, using a camera body, right? Which is DSLR, mirrorless. You have your lenses, you have the wide angle telephoto, you have the close-up, you have the zoom lens, you have memory cards, right? There are different types of memory cards, right? Depending on the kind of memory card you get, preferably you get a high-speed memory card, V90 or this is a V30 memory card, and this is V30, and then class 10. You have to know, you have to, this is for another class, but then just know that different kinds of memory cards, and they have different read and write speed. Read speed means that they're trying to, like, you take a picture and trying to see what you've taken, and your write speed is like you take a picture and then imagine you take a picture and then your camera is waiting a bit before it takes the next picture. That is affected by the memory card you're using. So you want to get a fast or high speed memory card such that when you take pictures, it's just taking it as fast as possible. This one has a, I think, write speed of 200 megabytes per second. So you need to keep that in mind too. I'm not a fan of bringing a memory cards from camera because there is a plate. No, let's go back to that. Then we have batteries, right? You need to have spare batteries, right? And then you have speed lights, right? One thing I'll probably have advised is getting a speed light that is rechargeable, that has rechargeable batteries. I think they call them ion batteries. I can't remember. It's like a block of battery like this. You just insert it and take your pictures. Unlike the finger batteries don't last as long, but the block ones, the ion lead battery, I can't remember what they call it. You just plug it and you're good to go. So we have assignments, but we will come back to that because we need to do one more thing, which is called composition, and we have 34 minutes to do that. So before I get to composition, any questions? Anybody have anything you want to ask me? Anything you want to talk about? Like, this is a good time to ask any questions. If you want me to revisit something, and I'm using time to do that before I go into composition. Composition, I've tried to limit it to like 5, 6. I wanted to bombard you guys and give you 27 before, but like 27 is too much. But because we don't need that. All you need are the basics. So ask me questions. Then we have 4 minutes. If you have any questions, ask me. If you want me to re-explain anything, this is a good opportunity to do that. Well, I don't know if I can tell this more. Hi guys. Any questions? Anything you want to revisit before I continue? Cheep, 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 cheep. Hello, everybody. No questions, no explanation. Oh yeah. Oh wow. Okay. Which part do you want me to do a demo with on my camera, on my phone camera? Um, which parts would you like to? Which part would you like me to do a demo of? Okay, maybe we can do this, right? So this is the f-stop. Okay, f-stop. Okay, so this is my camera, right? I'm using a Pixel, right? So my Pixel is not does it has a pro part, but it's not all that. So here you will see this part, right? This looks like landscape, and this is blur. Now, if I move back, right, and I switch between this, can you see? Okay, this is interesting. Look at myself. Now, I don't know how to. I don't know how I can show you guys. How can I share my screen so I can show you guys what I mean? If I if I go between if I go between not shutter speed, it's focus I need. So if I go between, so this is this chair, right? This is this chair. If I go this way, can you see what happens? It blurs out. if I tap on the this thing, it's going to focus on the chair. Now, if I try to increase it, you see what happens. It shows more of the chair and the background. Does that make sense? You know what? No, Funny does not have it. The new Canon does not have it either. The software I wanted to try is more of a DSLR kind of thing. So basically, go to your camera, right? Go to your camera, go to the pro mode. If you have a pro mode, click on focus. When you click on focus, it will allow you see your f-stop, if that makes sense. Now, my own camera, the widest it can go is f1.68, but on some other pro cameras, they allow you to vary that number. If you go to an iPhone will be able to do that. Hold on. Yeah. Sorry, guys. My iPhone user is not in the house, so I can't really show you with an iPhone. But try and check that. But we'll delve deeper into that when we get into what do you call it, the exposure triangle. And one thing, like I said, the assignments, so you'll be able to try it out. Does that make sense, Joshua? Or do you want me to explain it? Hello, guys. Can you hear me? Or the other way is use your finger. Put your finger to your face. What happens is when your finger is on your face, what you notice is every other thing is blurred out. And when you take it away, you'll be able to see that you'll be able to see more in your environment, meaning that every other thing in your frame will be sharper. This is fine. Okay, no worries. If you want the visual expression or visual understanding what I mean, meet Israel on Sunday. He will explain it better with a camera. All right, so let's go into the other parts. This is 902 already. The other part is what I call composition. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to show you the composition one. I have to update it because I don't want to overwhelm you guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fit it to screen. Now, so the big five, actually, big six, big seven, actually. For B6, let's just do B6. I'll not do the second one, seventh one. So composition is how a photographer puts his or her own spin on a photograph. Put simply, it's how the elements of a photo are arranged within a frame to make it interesting to the viewer. The main purpose of composition is to lead the viewer's attention and tell a compelling story, meaning visual story, meaning that, like I said before, we don't just take pictures, we make pictures. So your composition is there to help you compose your shots in the sense that you look at the shot you're about to take. You're like, how can I make this visually interesting? How can I make this nice? How can I make it that when people when people look at this image, they'll be like, wow, that is the reason why we have composition. Composition is like trying to make jollof without your pepper base. Does that make sense? Or it's like it's like trying to make jollof without pepper base because the pepper base is very important for you to make your jollof rice, right? You use composition to frame your shots, to make it interesting, to make it nice, to make it amazing. So whether you are shooting on a professional camera or a smartphone, it's important we master this composition techniques I'm about to show you. Now, the first on the list is what we call rule of thirds and the rule of space. I've added both of them together, right? Now, so this is going to be a lot of work. This part is not going to be a lot of work, but I just need you to open your mind and receive. Yeah, we've prayed. We receive at the same frequency as the teacher and teaching. We have 20 minutes to do this. 16. All right. So when you open your camera, now what thing I want you to do, right? If you have your phone camera, everyone, go to your phone camera, go to your settings, go to your phone camera, go to your settings and put on your grid. And when you want to put on your grid, put on 3x3. Don't put on 4x4. Don't put on golden ratio. You don't need it. Go to 3x3. When you do that, let me know. Did you hear what I said? Once you go to your camera and when you go to your phone camera and you put on your grid, let me know. Go to your camera, go to your settings, put on your grid, and ensure it's 3x3 instead of 4x4. Oh, have we done that? Or have you been able to do that? Okay. I'm going to assume everybody has been able to do that, so we can continue. Now, when you go to your grid, when you open your camera and you open your grid, one thing you will notice is you will see these lines come up, right? If you did, thank you, Ebere. If you did, is it mathematics? Everybody's had mathematics or what else? The goal is to place the important elements of the scene along these lines or exactly where the lines intersect. You don't necessarily have to put the person here. You can put the person here, you can put the person before or after, right? It's very interesting. It adds a visual, um, it has a very sweet visual expression to what you are taking a picture of. That is rule of thirds. Now, the rule of space is when you place your subject off center or in center, and you must consider the direction in which they are looking. Usually suggests that the subject must be looking or facing into the frame rather than out of it. How would I put it? It's more or less like you have one person and then you have a lot of space. I'm going to show you visual expressions. I tried as much as possible to go through the image gallery I have for CDM and for some of the ones I have, but I don't want to use some of the things I have. I wanted to do more of CDM work. Now, this is a cheetah. Right? This is somebody that took a picture of a cheetah, right? What they did is they do use rule of thirds. Now, rule of thirds is two vertical lines, two horizontal lines, and at the point where they intersect, that is where you place your subject. Now, if we remove all these lines, you will see how the cheetah stands out in the picture. I'm going to use a picture of I shot a all week for for a for a student association at the time. Now, imagine the lines. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. What did I do? I placed my subject around that point. Do you see how visually interesting this looks? Now, we look for another one. Let's look at these people. This was an overhead. It was like a shot from overhead, right? We did 1, 2, 1, 2. Where did I put them? I put them in the lower axis instead of the one on top. Do you see how visually interesting is this? Now, this is a vertical image. 1, 2, 1, 2. Where did I put the person? I put the person here. Does that make sense? These are pictures I've taken of old. This is a document I'm just revisiting in a way. This is another one. Now what makes it interesting is this is something I should have said last, but I will say it now. You can break a rule, and you can break a composition rule, and you can also merge different composition rules together. Now, remember what I talked about the space thing. When you put your subject off center in the direction they are looking, or you try to create space to make your subject like it's trying to tell a visual story with your subject and the space in which they are in, right? An example is this, right? This is space. There is space, but then you can still see what's your subject or what I focused on. There is space here, but then there's also rule of thirds. This picture here, there is space here, but then there's also rule of thirds. It's space in the sense that Every other thing, like the other things, there is this thing in the background, but then what you are looking at when you first look at this picture is this tree, the rule of thought, and the fact that there is space. We used to call this negative space, but because of this class, I don't want to talk about negative space. We're just going to use space, right? Now let's use one from CDM. This was shot in 2023. Now, what we can see with this picture is rule of thoughts. We do 1, 2, 1, 2. Rule of thoughts. This person is worshiping, and prophet is also in the picture of ministry. We use rule of thoughts to visually express what is happening in the moment. This person is trying to receive. So basically, rule of thoughts was in this shot. Now you look at this shot on the left, right? You see a picture of prophet, right? Prophet is on stage. You see prophet. Prophet is in the middle. There's something called centering your subject, but I'm not sure I added it. So I'm just adding this to it. There's centering your subject, and then you can also, I just broke the rule. What did I do? I broke the rule of thought. I centered my subject. I don't have to do rule of thought every time, but I also use space, right? There is space, even though there are people in the background, but then there is space. It's not like anything's competing for attention with prophet. Prophet is in the middle, every other thing, there is space. Does that make sense? Let me see if I think, okay, I didn't have any other one. So that is rule of thoughts. Divide your frame into 9 equal parts, 2 vertical lines, 2 horizontal lines, and you put your subject around the point at which they intersect, right? Do you get what I mean? You put your subject around those parts. It's visually interesting. It's very nice. Like this one, there's framing in this picture, but like let's not go there. We've not gotten there. Do you get what I mean? I need a little bit of feedback. Do you get what I mean? Is it making sense? Is it making sense? Hi guys. Okay, thank you, Baloko. The next is what I call foreground, interest, and depth. Now, because when you take a picture, you're taking a picture on a flat surface, right? And the way to create depth is you look at your picture, you have your foreground, your midground, and your background. You use foreground, interest, and depth to do that. You want to make your picture look like 3D, not like you just put people. Most weddings, sometimes when you're taking group pictures of people, you just have them standing in a straight line. It's very boring. There's no depth in the picture. Nobody really cares about it because everybody just posting it. But then when you want to create depth, you want to do something interesting, you create depth by looking for a foreground, midground, and background. Now let's look at this picture of Cornell preaching, right? You have your foreground. Your foreground are these people trying to receive. Midground is, let's say midground is Korean Moyo, right? People are trying to receive from him. And then the background is the stage or the cross or anything in the background here. So we have the foreground, you have the midground, you have the background. This is one of the ways you add depth. Use different things to add depth into your picture. Another one is this one. This is a very interesting picture. Prophet is in the foreground. What is in your foreground? Sometimes it can be blurred out or it can be sharp, depending on whatever way you're trying to tell your story. Now, you look at prophet. Prophet is blurred out, but then you can see that he's receiving from his father, Koremoyo. Does that make sense? So there's the foreground, there's the midground of people that are falling under power, and there is the background. Does that make sense? Foreground, midground, background. I hope it's making sense. This is a proposal. The foreground, I used plants for the foreground. So the foreground is this part. The midground is the walkway, this part here, and the background is taking you to where the what is that? Will you marry me? That kind of thing. Now these are stock images. You will see this stock image. We have the antelope in the foreground. You have the sea or pool, no, the sea or body of water in the midground, and you have your background, which are the mountains. You look at this image, you see the foreground with the stones, you see the midground, this part, and you see the background, which is the horizon. Does that make sense? So I'm just going to try and rush this part. Then the other one is fleeing the frame and emotions. So you want to be able to capture intimacy in the sense that you want to be able to capture intimacy in terms of when people are worshiping, when people are trying to receive. So what it does is it technically focuses on the viewer, focuses the viewer completely on the main subject without any distractions. You are just trying to focus, you're trying to take one person. There are other things, but like you want to feel the frame with just that person, and you want to be able to capture emotions. So sometimes it might not be that, it might be that person is listening to the word of God and you're feeling the frame with just that one person, or you're trying to capture emotions where the person is worshiping and you're trying to focus on one person. You can do, there's something called rule of thirds, three people, but you don't necessarily have to do that. Sometimes you do feeling the frame. So this was partly with portraits when you're trying to capture something more intimate, right? Ask yourself, what emotions are my subjects giving off? And how can I arrange my composition to give off that same emotions, right? Trust me, when you're in service, there will be many things calling for your attention. Sometimes, like I said, you need to relax, breathe. Don't be trigger happy. Trigger happy is you carry your camera, you're just taking anything. You're not composing your shots. You're not being intentional about the kind of things you're trying to take. That can be annoying, especially for the person that is going to be editing, because you just took a bunch of random pictures. They probably find 1 in 10, which is no good. So you want them to be able to look at your image and be like, okay, wow, this is very interesting. This person filled the frame with this picture. This person used rule of thirds in this picture. This person used space in this picture. This person focused on the emotions, right? So this is an example of an emotion, right? Two things, you can see two people in this picture, but like two people that their faces are visually expressed. But when you look at the picture, who do you see first? You see this lady, right? You see this guy. There are other people in the picture, but you are filling the frame with just one person, right? When you look at this picture, there are other people, but like when you see, like I said, when you first look at the picture, you fill the frame with this person. You don't try to add this person. My bad. Maybe you should have removed this person, but like you try to focus on this person, or you try to focus on your subject, right? This is another example of filling the frame. You fill the frame with profit without any distraction. I'm not trying to add other things into the frame. This is emotions. Filling the frame. This is emotions to um, this is emotions. Now, how you know this is also emotions is, you know, people are trying to raise their hands in service. They're trying to receive from the anointed, right? When they raise their hands, you know that they are trying to receive. This is a form of emotion without showing their face. Does that make sense? Oh shit, I added the wrong picture here. So these three pictures are supposed to be for something else. So there's something called framing. Let me teach you framing. Framing is when you use things in your foreground to frame your subject. Now, in this picture, like I said, emotions, but you can also use it as framing. When you look at this picture, these two hands are framing general, sorry. These two hands are framing the picture. I took this picture through a chair. There is a seat, there is a stage here where the couple is going to sit down. But this is a chair. I shot in between the chair. Now you can use things and you can also use people to frame your picture, right? You don't necessarily have to just focus on one person and just do, let me just frame one person. You can frame somebody else by shooting in between people. So you are during service, you see somebody at the back of people in your foreground or people in front of you. What you just do is you can zoom in and use those people to frame the person you're trying to take a picture of. Not necessarily have to start going to the back or trying to walk in between them. You use your lens, you zoom in and you frame. So you can use physical objects, you can use people. This was a chair, this was leaves. Now, what makes it interesting is I used framing here and rule of thought. You divide the picture, you have your point of intersection, and then there's also this to frame the picture. There is depth in a way, which is this foreground, the background, right? There's no mid ground. Sometimes there will not be mid ground. This is framing, where I use leaves to frame the subject. This is using a tree to frame somebody, and also rule of thoughts. This is what do you want to say if you look at this picture? Will you say rule of thoughts? Will you say framing? Yes. You can also say emotions because he's preaching, people are listening. You can use this person to frame him. There's no other thing here I could have used. Maybe I could have used something else here, but this is, you can also say this is centering, but like that is just a lot. Now there's something called leading lines. which is number 4. Leading lines, you can control the path of a viewer through your photo. Now, a lot of us did leading lines, or we grew up knowing leading lines, but we forget it. One thing you can also do is train your eyes to see these things. Now, leading lines is such that when you're on the road, you are traveling, you're on Third Mainland Bridge, you are going. What happens is you see the bridge converging at a particular point. That is what leading line does. It leads you through your image. It doesn't necessarily have to be just a straight line. It can be zigzag, it can be diagonally. But then what it does is it's taking you to a particular point, right? For example, this is taking us to this person. This is taking us to this dog. Now, what thing you can do when think of when you look at these images? There's something called leading line in this image. You see these lines, right? They are leading you to where? To general. The people here, everybody is converging at a particular point, which is general. Does that make sense? It is taking your eyes there. And what makes it interesting is there's also a rule of thought in it. Like I said, you can use different compositions to make an image. It feels like I've bombarded you guys a lot with a lot of things. So the one of the other ones is breaking the eye level habit. So half the time we are always shooting this way, right? Do something interesting. Do shoot from below. If you have a drone, shoot from above. These are ideas for annual camp meeting. You can get a drone, shoot from above, do a different angle of view. Half the time we are always shooting this way, but you can do a different angle of view. Angle of view means that you can do the bird's eye view. The bird's eye view, when a bird is flying, birds are looking at us from up down, right? Bird's eye view, that's what's called bird's eye view, from up down, or shoot from below. Try a different angle of view. So, for example, this shot of this couple, if I shot this from down, it would look very boring, right? But we use the drone, take a picture from up down. This is somebody that is dancing. If I taken it from eye level, I would not have seen his facial expressions. I would not have been able to use this person and this person, or this person and this person to frame him. Does that make sense? And there is different angles. This one, I have to go upstairs on top of the building, not on top of the building, to another floor and shoot. Now, if you look at this from the front, it looks interesting, but then you see a different story being told here. You see people cheering, you see somebody doing an activity, you see somebody about to do the same activity. This is a different angle of view instead of the normal eye level. So what you need to do is try. This is another. We should increase this so you guys can see it. This is a different angle of view. Colonel might be downstairs, down the pulpit here, preaching, but what's happening? We are taking a different angle of view instead of the typical down level. So try a different angle of view. Prophet could be preaching on what you can do. Prophet could be preaching on Sunday. You can go to the back and take a picture from up down, right? Use your hands, just raise it up, take a picture, or go down, bend down, take a picture. It gives you a different perspective. Don't go down, right? People are saying that. So go up, right? So to show a different angle of view, it makes it look like there's more, right, in the image than just going. If I go eye level, I'm probably focusing on just these 4 people. But if I go from up down, I'm seeing a lot more. So the last but not the least is the decisive moments, right? This one is very important. Remember, I said that don't be trigger happy. A lot of times, a lot of photographers, once you give them a camera, newbies, no offense, we love you guys. You just carry camera, just relax, relax, is enough, right? When I say decisive moments, I'm not saying that you cannot be trigger happy, but when you are using decisive moments, remember I said at the beginning of this teaching, is being able to read body languages and being in the moment and observing. Decisive moments will pop up, right? Somebody's worshiping, right? You can just carry your camera and just wait, right? You don't have to be, you can wait a bit, and you know that this person is about to do something that when you take a picture of, is going to be amazing, right? You use your eyes to, and your mind and your head to wait for those decisive moments to be able to take those pictures. Do you get what I mean? Use your intuition, use the Holy Spirit to lead you. Do you get? Photography is about anticipation. Don't just hold down the shutter, open for the best. Don't just wait. Watch your subject. Anticipate when they're about to laugh, raise their hands, or step into a perfect light. Right? If prophet is probably standing somewhere and the light is not flashing on his face. Okay, what do you do? Okay, you know that prophet, you most of the when I was in Nigeria, I know that prophet is always coming to the left part of the church. So what does that mean? I'm not going to go to the right side of the church waiting for prophets. If I want to go to the right side of the church, that means it's a decisive shot I'm trying to take. What am I going to do? I stay on the left side because I know that prophet is always going to that part. So you've been in those moments, wait for those decisive moments, be observant, and look at how the moments are unfolding. Prophet, you know, prophet is going to lay hands on people. And what will you first do? You first do this, right? You first put his hand like this before you put his hand on you. So those are things you observe. You see somebody worshiping, right? They are like this, then you notice that they're about to do this, right? Get ready for those moments and take it. Don't just be cha 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 cha. It can be annoying. So yeah, these are examples, right? It's waiting for the right moment to unfold. There's something called signification, but I don't know if I want to be teaching you too many things, right? This is enough for today. Signification is like focusing on one thing. It's like filling the frame, but not really filling the frame. It's more or less like using bouquet or depth of field, shallow depth of field, which we talked about, right? Use it to blot, use it to blot every other thing and focus on your subject. So it can be, this is a bride, right? Blot out every other thing. It can be hands being raised. People are worshiping during service, their hands are being raised. It can be that simple. You zoom in, blow out every other thing, and we both know that hands raised to is worship. So simplification. Try and simplify your image. Don't make it complicated sometimes. I'd have said rule of thirds. I like rule of thirds because when you take a picture, sometimes, like I said, I feel like I've bombarded you guys. Rule of thirds is using three things in an image, right? You don't try to add too much. You want to take a picture of some people, add three, limit it to three, right? Don't do more than three. Three is, how do I put it? The mind will not think about four people, but once you have three people, it can be visually interesting. This is one, two, three. But that's just by the way. I don't want to bother you guys. Thank you guys so much for coming. It was an amazing time doing this with you guys. So if we have the opportunity, we'll be able to take 10 more minutes to be able to take questions. Yes, your assignments. Hey guys. So I want to give you guys assignments. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can show you the assignments I want for you guys. So this is an assignment that everybody needs to do. You either send it to me directly, or if there's a way to upload it on a group so everybody can learn from each other. So the assignments, let's just do one instead of doing four. So no, let's not do one. So grab your camera, grab your phone, right? Take as many pictures as you want, right? And what you need to do is all the composition techniques I mentioned, use one of each. This is sorry. So assignment we've told we said we have to end this by 9:30. So do all the composition techniques I mentioned, right? Go through the church social media pages. You might not be CDM, you can go through every other one, analyze the kind of composition they used, send it to me, take pictures, like I said, try it out. Look at your shots based on everything we've talked about. Decompose it. Try pick one image from the church page that made you stop scrolling and save that image, send it to the group, and write one sentence explaining why the composition works based on what you learned today. Thank you guys. I really appreciate you guys for coming. Do the assignment, take pictures, send it to me, send it to whoever that's given them assigned to, and I'll see you guys on Friday. Yeah, that's it. I'll see you guys on Friday. Bye, guys. Say 9:30. I'm sorry. Whew. Thank you, Jesus.
Hey, thank you so much, Ali. We are so grateful. So we're going to work on the assignments. Thank you so much. We are indeed grateful.
Thank you.
So we're going to work on the assignment and then we send to you and then for preview. So our next class is on the 14th. Today is the 11th, and that's on Thursday. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Thank
So
you so
from
much.
today, please, just carry your phone. Like I said, your phone is very interesting, very powerful. take as many pictures. Try everything we've talked about. The composition techniques. You like, don't limit yourself. Don't think it's not possible, right? And thank you guys.
Yeah. Good night. Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.